We all know discipline is a necessary skill for a good life, but yet so many of us struggle with building this skill. Fortunately, discipline does not have to be built with sheer willpower. It can be more effortlessly built by understanding how discipline works and how we can wire our brains to make discipline easier. But before we get there, let's first talk about why discipline is so important by discussing the negative effects of not having enough of it. Lacking discipline can hurt us in a lot of ways. The first is a decreased self-confidence. When we set out to do something and we tell ourselves and maybe even others that we are going to do something and then we don't do it, our trust in ourselves becomes lowered, and as a result of that, our self-confidence, which is just another word for self-trust, becomes lowered. We lose self-confidence when we lack the discipline to do the things that we say we are going to do. The second is unmet goals and desires. When we lack discipline to follow through on our goals, we inevitably don't reach our goals. A third is strained relationships. So similarly to how we lose trust in ourselves when we don't do something that we say we are going to do, it can also create a lack of trust in another person when we don't do something that we say we are going to do. A fourth is financial troubles. If we are not disciplined with how we budget our money, if we don't stick to the budget that we give ourselves, we can end up in financial trouble. And the fifth is depression and anxiety. The first four that I just talked about can leave you feeling depressed, anxious, and overall just feeling bad about yourself. Now that we understand why discipline is so important, let's get to the 5 psychological tricks that can make building discipline much easier. The first is to trick your brain into loving discipline. The fact of the matter is that when you set out to do something and you actually end up doing it, you end up feeling good about yourself. We have to understand that discipline equals self-trust, or in other words, self-confidence. And conversely, lack of discipline equals lack of self-confidence. When we're confident, we feel good about ourselves. When we are not, we feel bad about ourselves. And so every time we are disciplined and we end up feeling good about ourselves, we wire our brains to understand that discipline equals good feelings. If we do that enough over a long enough period of time, we start to trick our brains into learning to love discipline. And the more good feelings that our brain associates with discipline, the easier it's going to be for us to overcome the pain of discipline. A good way that I have found to experience the benefits of discipline is to do 90-day challenges. The point of a 90-day challenge is that you set out to do something every single day for 90 days. Absolutely no excuses. And you tell yourself that at the end of the 90 days, you can stop doing whatever it is that you're doing if you don't want to keep doing it anymore. Granted, what happens a lot of times is that you want to keep doing it and you just continue doing it because over the course of 90 days, you've already basically built a lifestyle around it. But if it's truly not for you, you give yourself that option at the end of the 90 days to just not do it anymore. Knowing that you have that option helps you keep going throughout the 90 days as things get really hard. Now you can do whatever you want with these 90-day challenges. It doesn't have to be 90 days. If that's too long right now, you can start with 30 days. You can start with a week right now. The point is that you do something that challenges you and that requires discipline. For me, I have found that doing something every single day for a period of time without failing to do it a single day really helps build discipline and really helps you experience the rewards and the good feelings about yourself that you get when you really exercise that discipline muscle over a long period of time. Now, these challenges can be whatever you want. They can be meditate every single day. They can be go to the gym every single day, even if it's just for a short period of time. They can be wake up at a certain time. They can be don't hit snooze in the morning. They can be to do a morning routine every single day, preferably a short one if you're going to be doing it every single day. They can be to eat home cooked meals and not go out and spend money and eat bad food. They can be to take a cold shower every single morning or dip yourself into the cold tub. Or they can be to just not go on social media any single day for that period of time. The point is that you tell yourself that at the end of that time period, you can completely stop doing it. That helps you stick to it during that time period. And by the time you're done, you might find that you just want to keep doing it. A second way to help improve discipline is to design your environment. For example, you can remove the temptations. Me, myself, I don't buy junk food because if it's in the house, I will eat it. I don't really buy alcohol because if it's in the house, if I have a bottle of wine in the house and it's late at night and I've had a long day, I might open it up and I might not want to do that. I might want to opt for a healthier option. Conversely, you can also create cues. So you can buy healthy food and when you open your fridge and you see it, that's a cue for you to eat healthy. Or you can have a poster of somebody you really admire and that's a cue for you to get up and get going and get after it. Or if you're having trouble going to the gym in the morning, you can lay out your clothes and your shoes the night before so that when you wake up, not only is there a cue there, but it also makes it much more effortless for you to actually go to the gym because everything's already there. All you got to do is put it on and just get out. Similarly to removing temptations and creating cues, you also want to remove negative people and surround yourself with positive people. Negative people are temptations for you to stray away from your goals and your desires, and positive people will be there to support you, challenge you, and pick you up when you fail. Another version of this is to remove negative content from your feed and start consuming positive content instead. In today's day and age, it's not just our physical environments that matter, it is also our digital environments. In fact, many of us spend more time in our digital environments than we do in our physical environment. So it's important to optimize both. A third trick is to set clear goals and track your progress. Vague goals lead to procrastination, and big goals can lead to overwhelm. By making sure your goals are specific and you know what to do, and by breaking down your big goals into smaller tasks, you reduce the level of overwhelm that you would feel if you just had the big goals, and you reduce the level of procrastination that you might engage in if your goals were vague and you weren't really sure what it is that you need to do. When you set clear goals and they're broken down into step-by-step actions, you are less likely to procrastinate, you are less likely to feel overwhelmed, and as a result, it becomes much easier for you to exercise discipline. A fourth trick is to leverage social accountability. In other words, if you're having trouble staying disciplined on your own, you can use accountability buddies, and you can also make a public commitment. When you have an accountability buddy and/or you make a public commitment, it becomes incredibly harder, if not impossible, to lie to ourselves when we fail to do the thing that we set out to do. When it's just us, it's easier for us to kind of BS ourselves and say, oh, well, I didn't really want to do that anyways, or no, I actually did it, or, I half did it, but I did it. I basically did it. It's basically done. When you have an accountability buddy and you have a public commitment, and you have other people outside of you that don't really have a stake in your discipline, that have an unbiased, objective view of your words and your actions, we remove from ourselves the ability to BS ourselves. And as a result of removing that ability, it is more likely that we will exercise discipline. In other words, accountability can be a catalyst for discipline. And finally, the fifth and last trick is to practice self-compassion. Oftentimes, especially when it comes to discipline, when we fail, we can get really down on ourselves and we can start beating ourselves up. The problem is that oftentimes that doesn't work. If you can use that sense of shame and that sense of guilt to propel you to actually be disciplined the next time, then so be it. But oftentimes that shame and that guilt and that beating ourselves down, all that does is create a sense of helplessness and hopelessness in ourselves, and it just makes us give up. That shame and that guilt put voices in our head that tell us that we were really never cut out for it, that we shouldn't trust ourselves, that we shouldn't confide in ourselves, that we shouldn't believe ourselves when we tell ourselves that we are going to do something. And as a result of those voices, we might just give up altogether because we might adopt those voices as beliefs and even convictions that, you know what, it's just hopeless, it's just helpless, it's worthless, there's no point in doing this, I'm gonna fail anyways. And so when we beat ourselves up consistently, it can have that effect. It can really ingrain those negative voices in your head and actually make it counterproductive. Now, that's not to say that you can't use pain and a little bit of shame to propel you to say, no, enough. I am not going to do this. I am disgusted at the fact that I can't be disciplined. I am going to do the things that I set out to do. You can definitely do that, but it is important at the same time to remember to be compassionate with yourself, because if we beat ourselves down too much, it can have a completely counterproductive effect. And not only should we not beat ourselves down, but we should also remember to reward ourselves when we win. Not too much, not indulge too much, but we should remember to acknowledge the fact that we won when we won. If we never acknowledge our wins, then what's the point of winning? If we're not acknowledging our wins and we're not rewarding our wins, then our brain is not being trained to win. And so what that causes is that helplessness that I was talking about earlier of, well, what's the point? I'm not going to get anything out of it, so might as well just not even try. So it's important to not beat ourselves down. It's important to reward ourselves when we win, and it's important to take it day by day. Focus on today so that we can not only reduce overwhelm, but we can also stack up little wins and start building momentum. Now, if you like this video, I think you're really going to like this video right here about why willpower is overrated and what works better than willpower. And as always, if you like this content, make sure to check out the link in the description below to sign up for my weekly email newsletter, where I send you content like this every week via email every Monday to get you started for the week. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.